The following documentary contains descriptions of extreme violence, arson, and events involving families and children. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This is a recent and deeply disturbing case that shocked the United States. Please watch responsibly. Christmas Eve, 2008. The streets of Covina, California are glowing with warm lights. Children's laughter fills the neighborhood. Families gather for holiday meals, and everything feels safe. But at 11:30 p.m., on a small suburban street, a man dressed as Santa Claus walks toward a house carrying a wrapped present. Inside that present is a homemade flamethrower. Seconds later, the sound of Christmas music is replaced by screams, gunfire, and a fireball so intense it will burn the home to its foundation. This is the story of one of the most shocking Christmas tragedies in American history. A night of celebration turned into a massacre. This is the Covina Christmas Massacre. On Christmas Eve 2008, the residents of Knoll Crest Drive in Covina, California, were preparing for a night of warmth, celebration, and family comfort. But 30 miles away, in a quiet Los Angeles apartment, a man named Bruce Jeffrey Pardo was preparing for something else. Something calculated, something monstrous. Bruce and Sylvia had married in January 2006. Like many relationships, it began with optimism. Two people in their mid-40s, both hoping for a peaceful life and companionship as they grew older. But the marriage deteriorated quickly. Sylvia accused Bruce of being financially irresponsible. Bruce accused Sylvia of using him for stability. Arguments became routine, escalating over money, work, and Bruce's refusal to support her 3 children from a previous relationship. What began as tension eventually became full separation. By early 2008, Sylvia filed for divorce, a separation that would financially devastate Bruce. He was ordered to pay significant monthly spousal support. When he failed to keep up, a judge froze his accounts and placed further pressure on him. Friends would later say that Bruce felt humiliated, ruined, and publicly defeated. That sense of humiliation began to mutate into something more sinister. Christmas Eve should never sound like this. At 11:30 p.m., the Ortega family home on Knoll Crest Drive was alive with celebration. It was the kind of holiday gathering that carried decades of tradition. Food on every surface, laughter echoing through the hallways, children running between adults carrying new toys, and the smell of Christmas ham drifting from the kitchen. 9 children were in the house. 25 family members gathered together. A typical warm California Christmas. But as the night grew quieter, a figure approached the front door. A man dressed head to toe in a bright red Santa suit, the white fur trim glowing softly under the porch light. In his hand, he carried a large wrapped present. Inside that present was a homemade flamethrower. The man in the Santa suit was Bruce Jeffrey Pardo. He raised his gloved hand, and he knocked. The moment the front door cracked open, Bruce didn't hesitate. He stepped inside with a single purpose: destruction. The first gunshot cut through the music. Inside the living room, the family froze. Some thought it was a Christmas firecracker. Others thought it was part of a prank. After all, Santa had just walked in. But that illusion shattered instantly as Bruce raised a 9mm semi-automatic handgun and opened fire with precision. Screams erupted. People ducked behind furniture. Parents grabbed their children. Chaos swallowed the room in seconds. He didn't say a word. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply fired. Investigators would later conclude that Bruce entered the home with a clear target: his ex-wife Sylvia and her entire family. When he spotted Sylvia, he aimed and fired directly at her. She collapsed instantly. Her brother was shot next, then her sister, then others who tried to shield their children or run toward the back of the house. The shots echoed through every hallway, bouncing off the Christmas decorations and holiday music still faintly playing in the background. Within minutes, multiple family members were down. Bruce continued forward, scanning each room, moving with cold, mechanical calm. With several people already wounded or dead, Bruce put down the handgun and reached for the gift-wrapped present he had carried inside. It wasn't a present. It was a rolling, pressurized device connected to a homemade flamethrower nozzle. Without hesitation, Bruce ignited it. A jet of burning fuel exploded outward, engulfing the living room in a wall of fire. Christmas decorations erupted. Furniture melted. Heat blasted through the house instantly. People trapped in the room had no time to react. Survivors later described it as a firestorm, a furnace of flame that roared across the floor and ceiling faster than they could run. Windows shattered. Smoke filled every room. The house began collapsing as fire consumed it from the inside out. In the midst of the inferno, Bruce turned and walked out the front door the same way he came in, silent, calm, without a trace of hesitation. Behind him, the Ortega family home was becoming an unrecognizable fireball. Flames reaching 20 feet into the sky, casting an eerie orange glow across the street. A neighbor seeing the blaze shouted, "Call 911! The house is exploding!" No one yet knew that a man dressed as Santa had just walked out of the inferno. Firefighters arrived quickly, but the blaze was so intense they could not enter the structure. The fuel Bruce used burned hotter than a typical house fire, reaching temperatures capable of melting metal and collapsing the roof. Christmas lights melted into the walls. The tree disintegrated into ash. Gifts were burned beyond recognition. It would take hours before emergency crews could even step inside, and when they did, the destruction was almost complete. 9 people were dead. Others were wounded. Children escaped out broken windows, running barefoot into the night. The Ortega family's Christmas had become a nightmare, and Bruce Pardo was already gone. The blizzard hit Pine Hollow with full force just after midnight. The streets emptied, shop lights flickered out, and a white curtain of snow swept across the town, masking footprints, tire tracks, and anything else a killer might want hidden. Detective Mara Keller gripped the steering wheel as her SUV crawled forward. Dispatch had reported a new lead: a vehicle matching the suspect's van seen heading toward the old lumber mill on the outskirts of town. A dead end, a perfect place to disappear. As Mara approached, she spotted it: the faded red van, half buried in snow, engine still warm. The back doors were wide open, swinging in the wind. Inside were discarded scraps of fabric, red fibers, fake beard pieces. The costume the killer had used to walk the town unnoticed. But the driver's seat was empty. She stepped out into the storm. The air stung her face as she scanned the area, then saw them. Faint footprints leading toward the tree line. He was running. Mara followed the trail until it stopped abruptly at the edge of a frozen river. The ice was cracked. A long drag mark suggested a fall or someone forcing their way across. On the opposite shore, barely visible, a dark figure staggered into the woods. She moved fast. By the time she reached the far bank, the figure had collapsed against a fallen log. The man turned, face pale, breath trembling, clouds in the air. The Santa suit hood hung around his neck. The mask had fallen into the snow beside him. And for the first time, Mara saw him as he truly was. Not a monster, not a myth, just a broken man who had let grief twist into something violent. He whispered, "It was supposed to make them remember her. Christmas used to mean something." His voice cracked under the weight of his own madness. Before he could reach for the knife at his belt, Mara kicked it away and cuffed him. The man didn't fight. He simply stared at the falling snow, defeated. As backup arrived, the sirens echoed across the river and through the silent forest. The nightmare that had gripped Pine Hollow for 2 weeks was finally over. Later that morning, the town woke to find the news everywhere. The Santa killer captured in blizzard standoff. Christmas now safe in Pine Hollow. But Detective Mara Keller knew the truth. Evil doesn't disappear with the season. It just waits for the next cold night. And in Pine Hollow, winter had only just begun. When detectives finally brought the Santa killer into custody, the town of Pine Hollow let out a collective breath. But for investigators, the case wasn't over, because the killer had mentioned something during transport. A quiet, almost mumbled phrase that one officer wrote down exactly as he heard it. "Check the cellar, the old cabin. Christmas isn't done." No one knew if it was a threat, a confession, or the ramblings of a man unraveling in the cold, but police couldn't ignore it. 20 miles outside town, buried in the deepest part of the woods, sat a small cabin the killer occasionally rented during the hunting season. It looked abandoned, roof sagging under the weight of snow, windows dark, icicles hanging like teeth. Yet there were signs someone had been inside recently. Fresh snow disturbed near the back door, an extinguished lantern half frozen in a drift, and a trail of footprints circling the building. As if someone had been pacing detectives' forced entry. Inside, the cabin was silent. No heat, no electricity, just a table, 2 chairs, and a thin layer of frost on every surface. If the killer had lived here, he hadn't done it comfortably. But then an officer noticed something strange. A rug pulled slightly out of place. Under it, the faint outline of a metal ring. The trap door was old, older than the cabin itself, and sealed with rusted nails. It took 2 officers to pry it loose. A cold draft rolled upward, a draft far colder than the winter air above. It smelled of damp earth, metal, and something faintly chemical. Flashlights descended into the darkness. The stairs were wooden and unfinished, leading into a narrow underground room only 6 feet tall and no wider than a walk-in closet. The walls were lined with newspaper clippings of holiday tragedies, Polaroids of Christmas decorations around Pine Hollow, and a hand-drawn calendar counting down the days of December. But the most chilling discovery was pinned to the far wall, a list of addresses, all belonging to families the killer had been watching. Some had small notes beside them, Seen leaving for holiday. Children home alone. Perfect location. Night of the 23rd. This wasn't just a hideout. It was a staging ground, a planning room. In the center of the cellar sat 3 wooden crates. Inside the first, pieces of Santa suits, gloves, belts, torn red fabric, all stained and damaged from past attempts to disguise himself. Inside the second, tools, not weapons but pry bars, lock picks, glass cutters, items used to gain entry silently. Inside the third, Christmas gifts, wrapped, labeled, but each gift tag bore the name of someone on the address list. They weren't real presents, they were tokens, objects to be left behind after each crime, completing whatever ritual he believed he was following. At the back of the cellar, hidden behind an old metal shelving unit, was a second door, a newer one, a door the killer built himself. Inside was a room no larger than a shower stall, no windows, no ventilation, just concrete walls. And on the floor, the remains of food, water bottles, rope, duct tape, and a single Christmas ornament placed neatly in the corner. It was clear what this room was meant for. It wasn't for storage, or shelter, or escape. It was a holding space, a place meant for someone the killer never got the chance to take. When detectives reviewed everything found in the cellar, a darker truth emerged. The attack at the Christmas market was never supposed to be the final act. It was the first. His big night, as he described it later, was still days away. Dozens of names, multiple locations, a timeline written out minute by minute. The blizzard hadn't hindered him. It had saved Pine Hollow. Because if he hadn't slipped on the ice near the frozen river, if he hadn't injured himself enough to become disoriented, he would have walked back to this cellar, opened those crates, and continued what he saw as his holiday mission. The Santa killer wasn't finished. He was interrupted. When news of the cellar reached Pine Hollow, the relief many felt after his capture turned into something else entirely. Not fear, but the unsettling awareness that they had been living on borrowed time. Dozens of families were contacted. Each learned that their address had been written on the killer's list. Some had been unaware he'd been watching them. Some had noticed strange things in prior weeks. Footprints in fresh snow, knocked over bins, a missing decoration, and dismissed them. Others had no signs at all. The randomness made it worse. This wasn't a targeted spree driven by personal grudges. It was a man choosing victims based on nothing but convenience and holiday symbolism he had twisted into violence. Police sealed the cabin permanently. The cellar door was covered, reinforced, and later filled with concrete. The room the killer built, the narrow stall at the back, was photographed, documented, and then destroyed. It would never be used for its intended purpose. And as the first rays of daylight touched Pine Hollow the next morning, investigators knew one thing for certain. The blizzard didn't just capture a killer, it prevented a Christmas massacre.
world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me.